All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform, but not just a knowledge sharing platform. It is a league of extraordinary ladies and gentlemen who have not only made a mark in the fields that they're working in, but are those key thought leaders, the movers and shakers of the corporate world who are working towards innovation, internationalization, and also a sustainable future for all of us. So today as well, we've got an extraordinary young gentleman with us. He's the founder of Liquid Technologies, Mr. Hadi Tabani. Welcome to the show, Hadi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's jump right into it. Now, we know that you're a young founder and you've had, mashallah, remarkable journey so far. Please tell us about your professional and personal journey so far.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about myself. I graduated from high school here in Karachi and went to study in the US, in Texas. I studied computer science and mathematical economics, two very different things to study, and doing them together, I kind of got an idea of what I liked. I like to solve problems in both. Mathematics, economics was more theoretical, right? But computer science was very hands-on. So it gave me the absolute mixture of what I required to excel in what I wanted to do. I joined Accenture after that as an analyst, and soon was, helping high-performing teams build DevOps capabilities, deploying in real time within a day for massive deployments. So we actually led me and the co-manager that we had led teams of 20-30 people. And won the Accenture Innovation Award. The entire team won the Accenture Innovation Award for deploying, enabling a team to deploy at a very quick speed at one of the biggest Fortune 100 companies in the world. So after that, I moved to Houston, or within Accenture only, through their edge analytics in a very small arm of Accenture, which did only cutting edge work in data analytics, in development, and in AI specifically. I stayed there for a couple of months and realized that the potential I had and the potential as a Pakistani, I could create a lot more in value by involving and creating where I've come from. Also, my family business was here. My family was in Pakistan, so that kind of helped me out in building the basics, building the blocks for something transformational. So I started Liquid 2017. I moved back to Pakistan to set it up. I spent a couple of years here primarily, and then was in the middle between Houston and Karachi primarily. I still am. I keep going and coming back. So that's my personal life. Liquid
Technologies. Sorry to cut you off, but since you made this very, very interesting, not many Pakistanis want to actually come back and invest all that they've learned back into Pakistan. So, hats off to you for being one of those bright minds to, look out for your country. So how did you come up with the idea of Liquid Technologies, and in the sense that what is the problem that you're trying to solve here? Because like you said, you like solving problems.
Absolutely. So when I was in the US and when I was talking to the CxOs or in the industries that were around me, mostly oil and gas, I realized that there's a huge shortfall of good talent working on the data analytics side and building good platforms quickly, prototyping, right? I also realized that as a country, Pakistanis as a nation are very, at that point when I was coming back, they weren't as aggressive towards change how they are now with the startup ecosystem. And I was seeing that in the US. So I kind of wanted to bring that kind of culmination, right? And that's why we invested in the startup ecosystem. We were one of the first investors in the startup ecosystem back then as well, with Patari as being our first investment. And then ProCheck being a subsequent investment through Sirmayakar after that. The reason for me to come back and the reason for this idea was I wanted to give data at the fingertips of decision makers in the real time. Because at the end of the day, smart people make the right decisions with the right data at their hands, right? And that at that point, that was my mindset. And when I used to come back to Karachi pretty often, had family business here. So I used to take a look at that. Is when I realized that there was data all over the place that wasn't being cultivated, being, proper activities, proper thought processes weren't in place for this data. So how do we get it essentially in a space and in a way that it gets presentable to the CxOs or the higher management at the right time? And initially getting the companies and the decision makers to even invest in data. 2017, right? It was a challenge because all the big companies had taken their decisions. They were looking at it the right way. And that's what I, at that point, thought that, hey, the rest of them will follow soon. And that's what we're trying to do still. Most of our business is in the US, primarily for liquid, but we do a lot of local work with multinationals and case 100 companies in Pakistan, Karachi specifically as well, which is wholesome for me because that's essentially what I wanted to do.
Great, sounds amazing, and all the best for you for all the future endeavors with regards to liquid technologies. But since you've
Awesome.
Had quite a bit of experience working with international markets, not just in Pakistan, so give us that bird's eye view. Let's talk a little bit about the startup ecosystem in Pakistan. What are your thoughts? Are we creating and enabling enough environment?
Like everything in Pakistan, it's a journey and it's a ride. I think people over here have gotten the exposure. A lot of young talent has risen and kind of is taking, and myself included in that, taking the steps to enable the ecosystem as well. A lot of older investors that have seen Pakistan as a budding economy have seen some of the returns as well. We have a few companies that have exited. Mudassir Bhai, from Kareem, being the prime example of that. But again, it's a Dubai-based company. Most of the money did not come in, but they did invest in Pakistan. They did put a team up here. Venture Dive did some of the work for them, and they did get an exit out of it. So we have seen some of the money coming in, and the thing is, what a startup ecosystem is essentially building the future with the basis of what is available today, but also the vision of what will be available tomorrow and what will be needed tomorrow, right? So, for example, what Bazaar is trying to do, what a company like Maqsad is trying to do, a company like ProCheck is trying to do, digitizing factories, for instance. What Abhi Private Limited is trying to do, what Smart Rupee Elphinstone is trying to do is basically making financial inclusion easy for companies, for people, for consumers, making investing easy for consumers. K-Trade being a prime example of that. So these guys they're thinking of what will people do in the future, right? And as investors, they are raising, as investees, they are raising companies from investors. So people do believe in them. That's the enablement they need. The government has been giving them facilities, but I think the government itself has its own challenges. The political scenario is very, very cumbersome and exhausting in Pakistan, which is turning some of the brightest minds off to invest and build here, which is kind of sad. But I feel like if things stabilize a little bit and the government does take a rational decision, put the right minds, the thought leaders in the right places, things can change very easily and very quickly. And that's the beauty with tech, right? Change comes very quickly because that's how, as a tech company, as a tech entrepreneur, that's how we work. We work and we relish with change. So it's kind of fun in that aspect. I think the startup ecosystem, just to close this off, I think the startup ecosystem is budding. It just needs the right inflection points to hit the right inflection points in the coming years, coming months to become a behemoth. And I think it can be a pretty big market in the future.
Right. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. So good times, exciting times are ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move a bit
Absolutely.
towards, your work with data analytics, since you have a lot of experience in that regard as well. It was said that data is the new oil and gold. Now it is said that data was the new oil and gold. Critically evaluate this statement in the context of South Asia, especially in Pakistan.
So I'm going to be in the US. So I work, I have a company that does data monetization. And trust me, if you have a lot of data, you can sell it for a lot of money. On that side, let's focus on Pakistan specifically, because my work in Pakistan is, again, very small compared to the work around the world. But I do meet and talk to a lot of Pakistani CxOs, thought leaders, company owners, including the KC100 companies specifically. I think it is the new gold still for Pakistan, because Pakistan never went through that gold rush of data that the US or the European Union, European regions went through. For example, the GDPR came out of that gold rush, right? To put compliance into place, because people were using this data readily and not unexhaustively, essentially, that any data that they could get their hands on. It's a
Sorry to interrupt you there. Sorry to interrupt you there. It's very interesting what you're saying,
sure.
but this also, raises an important question. We can talk about the KSC 100 companies, but what about some of the other smaller businesses? How can companies improve data-driven decision making? Please build up on that.
1 week to build that report or 3 days to build that report. How they can improve this is, once a data strategy is in place, and these investments have insane ROIs, better ROIs than anything else. Building a data strategy and data warehouse that you can extract reports in real time provides a lot of value. And companies have seen that over the last couple of years, because then you can share those data sets or those data reports across the board and authenticate them accordingly as well. So it's very important for them to improve this process. Once the data strategy is in place, the rest, everything falls into place, because your team is then trained to understand the data better and have the vision aligned across the board, from the CxO all the way down to the analyst, of what is required and how it's being useful. And the vision needs to be there for that. So that's very important.
It's across the board for all departments, because if you look at whether it's HR, marketing, sales, I feel like it's really taken away the biases and the preconceived notions that, especially in South Asian markets like Pakistan, young professionals had that, I'm doing so well at my job, but my manager is just biased against me. But now we've got, substantial data to prove it. So it gives them the sort of insights. And I think it makes relationships with co-workers even better, because your LinkedIn profile. So 3 things that people listening to you don't know.
All right, that's coming out of nowhere, but I think for me, my favorite thing to do on weekends to kind of de-stress and gather my thoughts, also relax, is go to the beach. I love doing that. Karachi has a very good beach to offer. Houston has not that good a beach, but you can find spaces like Galveston, where I, go get an Airbnb or just spend time in the water with family or something like that. Another thing I love to do, the second thing I would say, is gaming. I play FIFA a lot. Something my wife doesn't like as much as I do. It helps me, there's a lot of energy, creative energy, that doesn't get extended or spent in the day. And FIFA helps me do that, or gaming helps me do that. And the third and the most fun thing I do is snowboarding. And I kind of picked that up while I was in Seattle for the projects. Sorry, you said something?
That's amazing. Snowboarding.
Yeah. I was very afraid of it, because I did skiing as a child and I got hurt. But while I was traveling to Colorado, and my cousin, actually, who took me there, signed me up for a snowboarding lesson. and I've never looked back. I've been on like Olympic mountains in Whistler and in 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 Canada and the US. So it's been essentially very fun for me doing that. It was a very good escape from the real world too. And it's a different life. It's very fun. So I love doing it. Unfortunately, Pakistan doesn't offer that as much. So I've been not doing it as much. I do an escape once a year at least. Try to. COVID has been very difficult for that too, but hopefully moving forward, I can restart that.
So yeah, since we did lighten up the conversation a little, might as well just ask you, what was the last show you watched on Netflix?
So I watched Stranger Things with my wife.
Literally, it's like the fifth sea level telling me this week that they've watched Stranger Things. That was the last recommendation.
So it's a kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, you went in and out. Can you repeat?
I said, so that's literally the fifth person in the past 2 weeks, fifth sea level that I've interviewed, who's told me that that's the last thing that they watched on Netflix. So I guess it's one of the common things in successful sea levels, right? Watching Stranger Things.
I think all of any decision maker needs to kind of relax in some way in a fictionless world where they can enjoy someone else's misery. Because entrepreneurship is not easy; it's difficult. So it's a good escape, and right, it offers a way to kind of reconnect with the base. I think Stranger Things did it really well. It's a very well executed show. So the storyline is all over the place, but overall, I think the base things are there, which helps us connect to the people. So I think that's very important.
Absolutely. So now we have a rapid fire round for you. So you
awesome.
Say the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following. So you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Number 1, big data.
Monetization.
Number 2, AI.
If you have big data, you got to monetize it. I think AI is going to be the fabric of society that's going to be existing in a neural network and push onto robotics in the future. And that's what AI is going to be.
IoT.
Giving machines a language to speak to us.
The metaverse.
What the world World Wide Web was in the 80s. I feel it's new, it's exciting, but it's the unknown, and I think a lot can be built on top.
Sarmaya car.
Trustworthy investments in a very risky space. I think that's
right. Last one, Hadi Tabani.
I think probably the most difficult one, but if you I think if I give you my wife's perspective, then someone consumed by building the future and doesn't care about the present that much. Sorry, say that again.
That sounds like Tony Stark.
Oh, I hope I'm not that smart, but trying to build a better future for everyone around me, inshallah.
All right. Thank you so much, Hadi. It's been an honor and a privilege talking to you. Please keep contributing to the knowledge economy. Keep dreaming, keep building the future. And we wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. But before I sign off for the day, I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the utility of forums like CxO Global?
I think primarily why I joined CxO as well is it's a nice community of thought leaders, people who understand the value of networking, and the utility is provided in that. So bringing that group together to solve for the bigger problems one day, hopefully. And I think the primary objective of something like CxO should be to build a think tank. Because I feel there are a lot of individuals out there with a capacity to really bring a positive change around us. And I see it here and there, but putting them together in a think tank would be very fun. And having a government subsidizing it, or a government using their thought processes to build the how do you say it? The next generation of constitutions or rules. I think that would be the actual utility if that can happen.
Absolutely. So just to let you and the audience know that CxO Global has been sending a lot of policy recommendations, not just the government of Pakistan, but a lot of international bodies. And they've done some tremendous work, and hats off to Mr. Kamal Masroor and his team for doing so. As for wrapping up what Mr. Hadi Tabani said, I was reading something very interesting yesterday about networks. So it is said that if you're part of a strong network, it actually increases your net worth. So network and net worth. With that,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching us. Thank you, Hadi Tabani, for enlightening us with your thoughts today.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed talking to you, and good luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll be all for today. That'll be all for today. And please keep us updated with your comments and feedback. We look forward to them. Up until next time, here's me signing off.
Allah Hafiz.